Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. The bulldozer seems to be on an overdrive in Uttar Pradesh, especially in the aftermath of the violence that we saw on the 10th of June after Friday prayers across the state. It all started with Kanpur, where the bulldozer struck against the accused of the June 3rd violence. From there, it was Saharanpur and Prayagraj. As the violence spread, so did the repercussions. If you pelt stones, you will have to pay the price. That is Yogi's bulldozer sending a clear message. Now the state government has zeroed in on 85 alleged rioters who wreaked havoc in Prayagraj. The administration is also mulling on the scope of punishment that should be meted out to these rioters. On the Newshour tonight, I can tell you, ladies and gentlemen, that a list of 37 arrested culprits has been compiled by the state against whom the action of bulldozers is imminent. It is perhaps against them that the bulldozer will roll on next. But the opposition sees this action as extrajudicial, an instant style of justice that has no place in a democracy like ours, says the opposition. And AIMIM chief Asaduddin Owaisi is leading the pack. He has called the Chief Minister of Yogi a super Chief Justice. He said this action was collective action against the community and Muslims are being demonized by Yogi Adityanath, the Chief Minister of Uttar Pradesh. Not a new charge really, but listen in to what Mr. Owaisi had to say.
उत्तर प्रदेश के चीफ मिनिस्टर तो सुपर चीफ जस्टिस बन चुके हैं। वो खुद अपनी अदालत में किसी को कन्विक्ट करेंगे और घर तोड़ देंगे। अभी से घर तोड़ दो आप। रूल ऑफ लॉ को तो बर्बाद कर रहे हैं आप। जो घर तोड़ा गया आफरीन फातिमा का, वो तो उसकी मां के नाम पे था। आपने झूठी नोटिस दी, आपने झूठा कहा कि पहले नोटिस दी। आपको कोई इख्तियार ही नहीं है घर तोड़ने का। ये खुली नफरत की मिसाल है मुसलमानों के खिलाफ।
Now, Owaisi is not the only one to raise questions. Politicians across the opposition board have slammed this bulldozing of the rule of law by the Yogi administration. They called it a real misuse of the state machinery, going on to ask if the Yogi government thought of themselves to be above the constitution of this country. A section of former Supreme Court and High Court judges, along with senior advocates, even moved the Supreme Court, asking them to step in. They called this bulldozer action repression by the state. They too cited how action was only taken against one particular community. But the BJP has dismissed all these charges completely outrightly. They justified the action taken and made it clear that those acting against the influence of those fanning hate will have to pay the price. Listen in.
जो विशेष तौर से सीधे साधे मुस्लिम युवकों को भड़का करके उनको दंगे और पत्थरबाजी की आग में झोंकने की कोशिश कर रहे हैं, मैं उन बच्चों से अपील करना चाहूँगा, उन लोगों को कहना चाहूँगा कि इनके बहकावे मत आओ, क्योंकि आपके खिलाफ कार्रवाई अगर उत्तर प्रदेश में उपद्रव करोगे और बच जाओगे, ये संभव नहीं है। जेल जाओगे, ये जमानत कराने भी नहीं आएंगे, ये आपकी मदद करने बयान दे देंगे। बयान के चक्कर में पड़ करके कोई ऐसा काम मत करिए। सरकार कानून व्यवस्था को बनाए रखना चाहती है और जो सही रास्ते पे चलते हैं हम उनके प्रोत्साहन के लिए भी हैं, लेकिन कोई अपराध करता है तो उसके खिलाफ जो कानून सम्मत कार्रवाई होती है वो होती है और वो होगी।
You've heard the charges and the counter charges, ladies and gentlemen. Some would say that by giving this action a communal color, these opposition leaders are actually rushing on to give a clean chit to those who took law into their own hands. And that is the legitimate question that I want to ask tonight. Is sympathy for alleged rioters justified? That's the question and that's the debate. Bulldozer Baba versus Owaisi. That's the hashtag and the debate coming up.
You're watching the News Hour at 9. Debate number 1 on Times Now. Super Prime Time.
And joining me tonight, Shantanu Gupta, author, Dr. Syed Rizwan Ahmed, lawyer, Smita Prakash, editor of ANI, Majid Hyderi, political analyst. But my first question goes to Lokesh Jindal, leader of the Congress party. I want to ask you this, Lokesh Jindal, because it's a pertinent question. you are objecting to instant justice that the bulldozers are giving. I would agree with that question and with that objection if you also came out and objected to the stone pelting and the violence that takes place after the Friday prayers. When you don't say a word against that violence and only try to question the administration and the bulldozers, some would say you're giving cover fire and you're creating an ecosystem that actually gives support to those who riot, to those who create violence, to those who target police personnel, as we saw in Kanpur, in Prayagraj and other parts of Uttar Pradesh. I want to ask you, where do you stand with the stone pelters?
Good evening, Navika. First of all, you said that when justice is being delivered in such a hurry, then there is an old maxim, justice hurried is justice buried. And secondly, when you are talking about action of the state and action of one community in the society, both of them cannot be compared. One is ruled by a certain law, constitution, a legal framework, other has it with self, certain custom, traditions and a way of life. Now, if I'm talking about the BJP,
so the customs and traditions allow them to pelt stones and to be violent
rather than Indian society centric.
I am asking you. You have started saying that. I agree that there are rules for administrations and the state cannot afford to look biased in any kind of way. I agree with that. The state has to be above that. But are you justifying that convention and culture and society allows certain individuals to create havoc, to start creating violence and targeting police personnel? That should be justified?
No, nowhere is it justified. In fact, it's very important for us to understand what is causing all this form of attention. Now, the BJP, its policies are Hindu society centric rather than Indian society centric. It gives the Hindus a primary citizenship and always pits Hindus against the Muslims. Now, this entire Prophet Muhammad's issue that has emerged because of Nupur Sharma's careless statement, now rather than bringing about a peaceful settlement between Hindus and Muslims, now the government is adding insult to the injuries by resorting to all this form of bulldozer justice. Now, such a form of anarchy, callous, and such form of a behavior does not suit a democratic government. Let me tell you, the government has even behaved in a manner which not even Hitler had behaved. So the point is, none of the actions of the government, the policies, they are in consonance with the national interest. It is simply dividing the country between Hindus and Muslims and considering that its propaganda is going to bring them further forms of votes in 2024. But let me tell you, BJP is going to succumb to its own fall.
Okay. Shantanu Gupta, respond to the charges made against you and against the Yogi administration by Mr. Lokesh Chinda.
I think, Navika, you rightly started. I think from the last couple of weeks, we have two sides. One side which are standing with the writers who come out after Friday namaz, who come out after the Jummah ki namaz and get stones, not in hands, in small tractors, lorries, thelas, who have ability to make petrol bombs, who fire at police personnel, who done arson, who destroy public property. That's one side. Second side, who is standing with Yogi's action, who's giving justice and who got a historic mandate 2.5 months back because of amazing law and order situation he has given to the state of Uttar Pradesh. So these are two sides. And about the illegal properties, Yogi administration have confiscated illegal property worth 2,000 crore rupees in last 5 years. From Rampur to Muzaffarnagar to Gonda to Lalitpur, and right now, from tomorrow also there will be a lot of demolitions. Right? In fact, on 21st of August, there's a huge demolition of a Supertech property, a major builder, because it was made on illegal property. In Mulayam Singh Yadav's time, Akhilesh Yadav's time, Mayawati's time, a lot of illegal properties were given under political patronage, and those are being destroyed. And in every case, I'm mentioning in every case, the due process was followed of notice, second notice, pasting the notice, and UP government came out of all the court cases that was put against them. So I think, and people have given historical mandate to Yogi government for their strong and law and order.
Will that justify, Majid Hyderi, the fact that there are bulldozers that are all over the place? Lokesh Jindal, calm down, calm down. I'll come back to you, sir. Let everybody be involved in the debate. Let me get in Mr. Majid Hyderi. Majid Hyderi, I want to ask you a question. Lokesh Jindal says justice hurried is justice buried, and justice delayed is justice denied. Where are we going to stand in the middle of these, two adages that, we are quoting today? And I want to ask you, if rule of law is not being respected by crowds that come out, by mobs that come out after Friday prayers, begin to pelt stones, and, this pelting of stones started as early as 2nd of April, Ram Navami. So it has nothing really to do with the provocation or, so-called provocation that is being cited. The question here is, nobody is justifying any provocation. Nobody is saying that, bulldozing should happen without taking the due process. Though the Yogi government is saying that it is the urban planning law of 1973 under which they are doing all of this. But the question is, should we begin to support those who pelt stones? Should we begin to support those who start beating up cops? Should we begin to support those who actually cause injury to cops, who have to stand on duty and protect normal citizens? And should normal citizens' lives be thrown out of gear? We should protect them, but raise questions on the action taken against rioters? What kind of a country are we living in? What kind of an ecosystem are we providing to those who are accused?
बुलडोजर की तोड़-फोड़ को इंसाफ बताया जाता है। भारतीय का घर तोड़ के नया भारत बसाया जाता। नाविका साहिबा, Indian Constitution does not permit collateral punishment. The demolition of the house of Afrin Fatima is not only unconstitutional, it's anti-constitutional because it demolishes the very idea of Indian system of justice. And tonight on your show, I am ready to put my career at stake. I have just one humble submission, one question, if you let me speak further. Yes, madam. Yes, am I allowed to speak further? Because I don't want to shout over anybody.
Nobody is interrupting you.
Navika Sahiba in 2000, okay, fine. Navika Sahiba in 2018, October riots in Bulandshahr, Inspector Subodh Singh got lynched. And the accused included young Yashraj Kumar, who said in his statement to the media that I am writing accused, I am not murder accused. And then he became a punch in that same area. Was any of those writers' houses demolished? Was any of the houses of Karni Sena people who took the entire nation hostage demolished? Were any of those who made MF Hussain leave the country, put him to forcible exile, were any of those houses demolished? I want to know it. If you give me one example, I'll join BJP right tonight on your show with an apology to the Bharatiya Janata Party. Thank you.
Response, Shantanu Gupta, before I get in Rizwan Ahmed.
Majid Saab, I think you're sounding quite funny today. So the house of Javed Pump, or the house which was on his wife's name, is demolished because it was illegal. Because on 10th of May notice was served, 24th of May notice was served, 25th May notice was served to demolish it, and no one responded. That's why it's demolished. The properties from Azam Khan are taken, Mukhtar Ansari, Vikas Dubey, you will like this name, Vikas Dubey, Vijay Mishra, they all are demolished because they were made on illegal properties. Today, Barrister Asuddin Owaisi is also making the same argument as you, that Teni ka ghar kyun nahi tod diya, iska ghar kyun nahi tod diya, because they were not made on illegal properties. If you have evidence against it, go to the court and prove otherwise. I don't know what kind of logic is that. Because government have due documents that their house is made either illegal property or government property, or the map is not passed. That's why under the due diligence of law, it's broken. And mind you, Uttar Pradesh government have recovered properties worth 2,000 rupees in last 5 years.
Well, so let me get in Rizwan Ahmed. Rizwan Ahmed, I want to ask you this question. Those who write to the Supreme Court have not said one sentence condemning the violence of 10th of June. They have not said one sentence about the fact that that was wrong. What they have objected to is the bulldozer justice. I just want to ask you, every time there are accused of some violence, whether it is Karoli, whether it is Khargon, whether it is this, why do we come up with an ecosystem that begins to make it community related? They always play this victim card कि मुसलमानों को टारगेट किया जा रहा है. I thought टेरर का तो कोई धर्म होता ही नहीं, तो इस तरह का लॉ ब्रेकिंग का भी कोई धर्म नहीं होता. Whoever breaks the law should be shown the rule book and action should be taken. Can we have different rules for different religions?
Yeah, thank you so much. Jai Hind, Vande Mataram. See, whatever I have been hearing since last 3-4 days, the prime objection is that the bulldozer is being used selectively. All the people who are arguing against the bulldozer usage are saying it is being used selectively against the Muslims. You know, these people are making a flawed argument. It means, what they mean to say is, if you also use against the Hindus, then the usage of bulldozer demolishing house is perfectly fine. So thereby meaning, the argument should be from their side that you cannot use a bulldozer on a Hindu as well as on a Muslim. Then the argument will hold water. They are making a selective argument, thereby endorsing that the usage of bulldozer is perfectly fine. The only problem is that it is being used against the Muslims. Number one. Now when I am talking about being selective, Navika, now let's go back about 20 days back or 15 days back, if I am not wrong, when that unfortunate incident happened in a TV debate. That day, some people became selective. Those people who started taking name of Nupur, if they were so fair, they should have said the Rahmani Nupur episode, the Rahmani Nupur saga. Why they were being selective that day and only barking over Nupur? They should have tagged in Rahmani also. Then I would have understood that these are fair people. Number 3 and last. There are for the same incidents 2 set of rules. Navika, please note this, if I can help you and your audience. One is a riot which happens when I am demanding something, some organization is demanding something, and there's a congregation, koi dharna pradarshan ho raha hai, and it becomes violent, and there is stone pelting and arsony and burning of cars whatsoever. That is riot 1. Riot 2 is, you know that it is a sensitive issue, you know it involves the Prophet, you know that the world is looking towards India, you know that our diplomats are being summoned by various embassies, you know it is Friday, you know it is Jummah prayers, you collect stones and you indulge in stone pelting. Now both the riots are different. How they are different, Nupur? The first riot has a local effect. The second riot, God forbid, if India would have slipped into a chain reaction of riots, if India had slipped into a chain reaction of anarchy, if India would have slipped into 50 another riots, you know, we would have seen 5,000 deaths. You know, we would have seen rapes. You know, this riot could have come to my house and your house. So do not call it a riot. This is a special circumstances, a drastic situation which needs drastic action. अगर मैं होम मिनिस्टर होता तो घर ना गिरवाता, घर की नींवें तक खुदवा देता.
Well, Rizwan Ahmed, I just want to correct you. I'm not Nupur, I'm Navika. I do believe that you know, hurting anybody's religion is certainly not acceptable, and hurting anybody's feelings. Rahmani was also hurting. No,
Rahmani was also hurting. Rahmani was also hurting.
Which is something that doesn't justify anybody coming out and going off the handle, and let's not go there. But the question tonight is not that. The question tonight, Smita Prakash, is why do Congress leaders come out and say नादानी हो जाती है बच्चों से, stone pelting और violence हो जाती है. Hemant Soren comes out and says तैश में आके लोग गलती कर देते हैं. There is justification that is happening of what happened on the 10th of June, and that is where the problem is. That 10th of June justification is considered to be legal, is considered to be in accordance with the law, but bulldozer action and its legality is being questioned. I'm saying that if you have to question one, you should question the other first. Isn't that the way it should be?
Quite right. I think it's logical, right, that the yardstick should be the same for everybody. No special cases. Now, if someone has broken the law, then they have to be booked. None of us, I mean, for example, you and I, we can't even say build a balcony, extra balcony in our house, or cut a branch, if the tree is moving into our house. We can't do that without NOCs, without permissions, without maps. Whereas if you go to any town or any village, you will see that the biggest house in the town or in the village, which has been constructed without any maps, without any permissions, will be of the Bahubali. Now, these Bahubalis have political patronage, and they think that political patronage is what allowed them to build the house, and they can continue to live in that house, continue to build factories and things like that, because they don't need it. That's for ordinary people like you and me, who need to go through rules and regulations for building anything. These are the people who never think that political patronage can go one day. And then when it goes, that the law catches up with you. So, people saying that, oh, why now? The point is, if you broke a law 10 years back, it will catch up with you at some point of time. And then it depends on the police, it depends on the administration when they catch you. The ED might come to you after 10 years after you broke the law, but they will come to you. At some point of time, they will come. The point is that, to come back to this whole issue, to say that I have sensitivities and the sensitivities got hurt, so I picked up stone. My sensitivities get hurt when there is a pothole in front of my house and that pothole is not rectified. The garbage is not picked up. The electricity keeps going, and then the Wi-Fi goes away because the electricity pole has come down during the monsoons or whatever. Do I take a cart full of stones to my chief minister's house, and start pelting stones in front of my chief minister? Or do I go to the NDMC office and start pelting stones? That is not the way, right? You and I don't have the advantage to do something like this. Our sentiments are hurt too. Does that sentiment justify any kind of violence? No, it doesn't. So at any point of time, if some lawyer is trying to quibble out here to say that sentiments got hurt, agreed. What Nupur said hurt some sentiments. She has apologized. Action has been taken against her. That in no way justifies pelting of stones and injuring officers on duty, vandalism and breaking property, setting fire and arson and loot. I'm sorry, that doesn't justify in any way. And if action is being taken, and if the action seems to be not commensurate to the violence which was there, I think you're being blind and you're trying to justify something which is absolutely wrong.
Majid Hyderi, respond. Sentiments to sabke hote hain hurt. Sentiments sabke hurt hote hain. When you say something about, Kashmir and New Delhi imposing things on Kashmir, hamare bhi sentiment hurt hote hain. But that doesn't mean I begin to stone you. You and I speak civilly, we debate, we argue, we put our points forth. And that is what a democracy allows you to do. Does it allow you or me to pick up stones and start pelting each other? That is not what democracy allows us. So why should only one community say हम पर इकट्ठे टारगेट किया जा रहा है? अरे भाई, स्टोन्स भी तो आपने इकट्ठे उठाए थे ना. अब जिसने उठाए थे उसके ऊपर एक्शन हो रहा है. Then why is it becoming a community issue? I want to ask you.
Navika Saiba, our democracy is essentially about equality. Equality before the eyes of law, equality on everything. When my Honorable Prime Minister Narendra Modi ji says, Beti Padhao, Beti Bachao, how can a bulldozer help Padho to this Afrin Fatima? How can a bulldozer be protection for this Afrin Fatima? Let me remind you.
So may I just interrupt you for a minute? I don't know, it's not a verified handle, but if you go to Afrin Fatima's site, there are videos of her where she's spewing venom. She calls this country something else. She says the Supreme Court in this country cannot give justice. That is her belief, because that's what is put there in her timeline. And that is what is being stated over there. Then why do you begin to say that there is differential application of law? She doesn't believe in the Supreme Court. Law be damned.
Well, exactly, yes. My Honorable Minister says, Goli maro salon ko. That's nectar, that's not poison. And no action is taken, and we appreciate that. No, we appreciate when my Honorable Minister says Goli maro salon ko, we all need to appreciate that, because this is coming from one community and he's speaking against the other community.
You don't answer the question, no. She said that when you don't believe in a court of law, when you're saying when there are girls, that same Beti Padhao,
you know, and don't use unparliamentary language. Don't use unparliamentary language. Even the court, even the matter went to Election Commission. The matter, those are the institutions which have to take the action. You can't sit here on the television channel and begin to say something that is, not okay. That language is not allowed. You can't use these words on national television, Mr. Majid Hyderi, and that is why I'm saying, if you have a problem with any of these sentences, there are courts in this country. There are courts in this country, my friend. Go to the court and get whatever redressal to your grievances are. That is why there is the law of the land and the constitution and courts in this country. But you can't sit here and begin to justify violence, arson, looting, vandalism, because it's not just you and me and police people and politicians who live in this country. There are ordinary citizens in this country, in these cities, who live there and go about their daily work. And Rizwan Ahmed, how come their sensitivity is not important to Mr. Majid Hyderi, and only one community's sensitivity is important?
Exactly. Right now, Mr. Majid said that our democracy runs on the idea of, that is, equality of law. Mr. Majid, I thoroughly agree with you, but there is some problem, you believe me or you don't believe me, in two set of people in this country. I'll give you a very small example. Mr. Majid, day before yesterday, a young boy, I think in class 12th, he wrote a post on Instagram that he does not support beheading of the fatwas of beheading, and he said, I stand with Nupur. His name was Saad Ansari. 150 of our people went to his house, barged into his house in the night and started thrashing him. Now come to scene 2. Suppose some Hindu boy, class 12, writes in his Instagram that I do not support Nupur. Do you think 150 Hindus will enter his house and start bashing him up? Do you think Hindus will behave like this?
So that you spoke about children and stone pelting, let me say there was a major expectation that Yogi ji would take lollipops and laptops to Pragyaraj and distribute those among the Muslim kids who were stone pelting.
What I am talking about, brother, I am talking about Bombay. I am talking about Bombay.
I am also talking about the kids.
I am talking about Saad Ansari, for God's sake.
Sir, I know about Saad Ansari, but I am talking about the kids of Pragyaraj who had picked up
So then why don't you say what happened to Saad Ansari was wrong? Why don't you say that what happened to Saad Ansari was wrong? Why don't you say what happened on the 10th of June was wrong? Right is right and wrong is wrong. I will begin to agree with you that bulldozer action was wrong if you will say that 10th of June violence and vandalism was wrong. Come on, say it.
How can I say it was wrong? I can't say protest is wrong.
Oh,
it may have gone wrong.
Violent protest is right. See, this is the hypocrisy. This is the hypocrisy. This is the hypocrisy. I want to ask you, Lokesh Jindal, I've exposed Majid Hyderi. He says, how can I say protests were wrong? That was not protest. That was violence. That was stone pelting. That was bringing stones in trucks and trying to disturb and be violent and to hit police people on duty. I want to ask you, will you condemn that? Has Rahul Gandhi tweeted and said that the violence on the 10th of June was bad, wrong?
First of all, Navika, I would like to share my viewpoint with my lawyer friend. He talks about right to equality. Now, let me tell you, in the Indian Constitution, there is equal protection of law.
Was violence on 10th of June right or wrong?
In unequal circumstances.
I'm asking you a
then
simple question.
About Muslims,
law later,
women and
right
children.
and wrong,
They are
right
the minorities,
and wrong, bata dijiye.
And they are the vulnerable groups. They are socially economically vulnerable.
So they should pick
now
up stones.
You cannot add insult to the injury by allowing the majoritarians so
what
as
kind
to
of
take
argument
away all
is
their
this?
social and economic
What kind
rights
of argument is this? Socially vulnerable people should pick up stones.
Destroy them. When the law of the land does not consider the Muslims as the equal citizens, why should they follow the land?
They are justifying 10th of June violence. They are saying these are vulnerable people, so they have the right to pick up stones. They have a right to, you know, beat up. They have a right to pelt stones at policemen on duty. They are saying this is correct. They cannot condemn this. Shantanu Gupta.
Welfare of the Muslims and social and economic development.
Lokesh bhai. Navika, what we discussed in last 10-12 minutes is, I think, of utmost important. What Smita ji and Rizwan ji said gives an underlining thought that there is no cost of insulting Hindus. So if Nupur will say something, there will be action, there will be furor, but there will be no talk about what Taslim Rahmani said. So Asaduddin Owaisi can say something and run away. Waris Pathan, Shashi Tharoor, Sabah Naqvi can say something and run away because there is no cost of insulting Hindus. So are we now trying to say and setting a dangerous precedent, sending a dangerous precedent that Hindus should also come on the road? And felt their hurt obvious.
Is this your
and that's the underlining. That's why it's one-sided debate from last 2 weeks. You can say anything about the Shivling. That's fine. Owaisi can say anything. Waris Pathan, Shashi Tharoor, Sabah Naqvi can say anything any day because Hindu will not make the cost felt. There's no Hindu nation who will put you sanctions and who will put you economic pressure. So are we trying to set this very dangerous precedent? Are we trying to set this very, very dangerous precedent that Hindus should also make their hurt felt, their sensitivity felt on the roads? Should also stop believing on police, on courts? And they should also start taking stone, petrol bombs and countering police. This is a very dangerous precedent that we are setting on debate from last 2 weeks.
Policemen on duty, right or wrong? Yes or no? Right or wrong?
Absolutely wrong. Absolutely wrong. Absolutely wrong. And this nation believes on the court of law.
Right or wrong?
And that's how the Hindu community behaved in the last 70 years.
Right or wrong, Lokesh Jindal?
Violence. Congress as a party has emphasized upon ahimsa.
Okay.
Absolutely
how
wrong.
How many leaders came out?
Violence.
How many leaders came out and condemned 10 June violence? How many leaders came out and condemned 10 June violence? I didn't see a single tweet from Rahul Gandhi.
We are condemning. The point is, we want BJP to stop this violence. This violence is manufactured by BJP.
You will give, you know, Smita Prakash, this is well. They will justify those who pick up stones because they are vulnerable. But BJP should stop the violence. And they should give cover fire to those who are the vulnerable sections with stone in their hand.
Look, Navika, when Shantanu says that, you know, should the Hindu community also take offense? Yes, there have been cases where Hindu community has taken offense, but the entire concept of Hinduism so far has been of tark vitark, has been of debate, where we debate various views, even if they are offensive. That's just how it has been. Now, and we don't have a blasphemy law. We don't have that, you know, X thing that you said was blasphemous. You hurt me, and I will say to you that you hurt me. If you can debate on this point of view, you debate. Now, if that changes, let's see whether that changes. That having been said, Navika, I also need to make a point of view that, you know, across the country, across the world, in fact, there have been influencers who've been egging on this protest who've been saying that limited violence during these protests should be allowed. These are people who sit abroad. I think there should be some kind of punitive action. Inka OCI card band kar do. ये जो आते जाते हैं, sitting in Sweden, sitting in Switzerland, turning around and saying कि हाँ पत्थर उठाना ठीक है, policemen को मारना ठीक है, these kind of things, that punitive action should be taken. They cannot publish their books in those countries where they live. They publish their books in India. Indian publishers publish those books, and they are the ones who are egging on violence. They don't pay the price. Those young kids who have come out, kids or youth or whoever, have come out in, now they have police records against their name. Unka passport nahi banega, unko visa nahi milega. Those who have gone to Kuwait, who got enthused with this protest, reasonable protest, unko wapas bhej rahe hain, right? Their visas are being cancelled, they are coming back. Their work visas are over. The remittances they were sending for their sisters, for their mothers, for their fathers, those remittances will stop. Who will give them jobs now? Those people who egg them on, those influencers, who Shantanu was mentioning, who was saying protest karna chahiye. Who pays the price for these riots?
Majid Hyderi, and there are these influencers who operate out of Pakistan, who operate out of countries which are inimical to India, and who's paying the price? It is your and our children, whichever religion they belong to. If they are misled, Mr. Majid Hyderi, ये फर्क आपको कब समझ आएगा?
Navika Saiba, firstly, I fail to understand why does any Indian need to leave India when we have the idea of Sabka Saath, Sabka Vikas and Sabka everything in the country. Why should any Indian leave for that matter? But coming to the point, we are discussing right to freedom of expression and some community getting hurt. It's not about Hindu-Muslim violence. It's not about Hindu-Muslim danga or panga or whatever. It's just that one community has got hurt. Their religious sentiments have got hurt because of the wrong utterances made by two of the BJP leaders. And it's not about Nupur alone, it's also about Naveen Jindal. So we are protesting that we need to get justice and we need strict
blasphemy laws,
much in line
of course go to the courts, of course file FIRs, do what you have to in the ambit of the law. But can you justify stone pelting, violence, fire, beating up policemen? That's the question I'm asking Majid Hyderi. Why is it so difficult to answer that question?
The problem is that we don't have capital punishment on blasphemy. In fact, we don't have blasphemy law. So unless we have it, you'll face such kind of situation. So come up hurriedly, come up with a blasphemy law, capital punishment.
Capital punishment you want. You want capital punishment for utterances, but you do not want bulldozer action for arson, for vandalism and beating up people. Rizwan Ahmed, ये है प्यार मोहब्बत की दास्तान from Majid Hyderi that you are hearing. Rizwan Ahmed.
Yeah. Right now, Majid Bhai talked about right of freedom of expression and protest. Majid Bhai, very recently, I'm not talking about history, very recently, Anna Hazare exercised the same right at Ramlila Maidan. He protested for weeks and months. Who had any problem with him? So number one, do not try to confuse a rioting with a protest. You have a right to protest, but you don't have a right to riot. Number one. Number two, when you talk about the capital punishment, very slowly you are steering towards your agenda, which you cannot deny that you truly love a blasphemy law which says कि अगर कोई हजूर की शान में कुछ कह दे तो उसका गला उतार दो. Number three, I heard Mr. Jindal, he was talking very nicely about Muslims and my prophet. Mr. Jindal, I think I am elder to you and I request you with folded hands and I hold my ears on national TV. Please, it is a matter between Muslims, BJP and our prophet. Please do not become a spokesperson. We don't need you. Please don't advocate our case on TV and debates. You are not wanted here for advocating for Muslim. As a Muslim, I am telling you this, okay?
Well, ladies and gentlemen, the question tonight is just this. That those,
you are not the only Muslim,
that those who say that protesting is their right will not condemn the violence in those protests. But they have a solution. They want a blasphemy law to actually give capital punishment to anybody who says things that they think are blasphemous. But on the other side, just bulldozer action is something they cannot tolerate. Talk about different rules for different people, and that is the special arrangement that these so-called rioters accused of arson and vandalism are demanding for themselves and so-called ecosystem that is coming out to protect them. Do you think this is right? Do you think this is in accordance with the Constitution of India? Can special treatment be given to rioters? That's the question India is asking tonight. Thank you very much to my panelists for joining me on debate number 1. Big